The opinions expressed in the Brothers on Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.
Thanks for tuning into Brothers on Law on Go Country 105. I'm Larry Mandel.
And I'm Rob Mandel.
And we've been trial attorneys here in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
On our show, we will discuss current events, talk about legal issues, and have some very entertaining guests stop by. So stay tuned every week for Brothers on Law right here on Go Country 105.
Brothers on Law.
All right, welcome back to Brothers on Law. I'm Rob Mandel.
And I'm Larry Mandel.
And we feel so blessed to be out here talking to all of you. Hey, Larry, do you remember when we first started out as lawyers many years ago? And in your case, many more years ago.
Rob.
And there weren't too many female lawyers back then, not that I recall. How about you?
No, that's true. There weren't that many female lawyers. There weren't that many female judges. It was basically a male-dominated profession.
Yeah. And now we find that we're lucky enough to have a lot more women, colleagues, and even opponents and judges and partners, yes. And it's changed not only the face of the profession, but also kind of the tenor and how we approach cases, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think the quality, too.
Yes. It's made it a lot better, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we're lucky enough also to have with us today one of the top female lawyers in town. I call her the Tiger Girl.
Yes.
And she's our very own Aslin Tutuyan.
One of our partners.
Yes. Welcome to the show, Aslin.
Hi, everybody.
So, Aslin, why don't you tell us a little bit about...
why she became interested in law.
Yeah. Why'd you become interested in this profession?
You know, I just always knew from the beginning, as early as 5th grade, that I just wanted to fight for people. And it was kind of like a lifelong dream of mine, and one that my dad really, really supported. I would have been the first generation to go to college and then graduate law school. But it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Like, I never wanted to be a doctor. I didn't want to be an engineer. Like, it was always law for me. And
was there somebody that you had to fight for when you were in 5th grade?
Yeah, I was going to say, what was it about 5th grade that
or do you have to
that?
fight for yourself?
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing in particular, but I've always been the type of person to not really like bullying or being made feel inferior or less than. And I kind of had to deal with that as a child myself. And
a lot of kids.
Yeah, and I kind of grew up learning to stand up for others. And as lawyers, we do that all the time.
Isn't that a great feeling?
Oh, it's the best, especially as plaintiffs, personal injury lawyers. I feel like it's not just our job, but
our passion.
It's our passion, but it's an honor to stand up for people.
It's our privilege.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a heady responsibility, is it not?
It is. And at the end of the day, you kind of internalize a lot of that, and it takes a toll on you. But the satisfaction you get at the end of a case when your 5-year-old little client comes up and hugs you in the courthouse after their case is settled and the judge has approved a minor's compromise, for example, that feeling is incredible.
What is a minor's compromise?
A minor's compromise is basically when you have a case that involves a minor and the case settles, the court basically wants to approve the settlement and make sure that it's fair and just for the minor, and to make sure that the minor's funds are protected so that by the time the minor turns 18, he or she will have some money to take care of the needs.
That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. So what would you say, though? I just want to get back to the notion of women in the law. And what special challenges, if any, do you find there are for women who are practicing and especially doing what you do?
Yeah, there are definitely some challenges, but there's also some amazing benefits. So the challenges are obviously we're kind of in a unique position where as women and particularly as mothers, there's that constant struggle and that juggling act that's required of us to make sure that we are amazing moms, but also amazing lawyers. And it's hard to stop being a mom sometimes and start being a lawyer.
That's right. Because the time demands, just by themselves, can be so overwhelming. It's
time management. How do you manage your time between those two?
Well, it's time management in that you kind of have to figure out what you're doing in certain hours of the day. And as lawyers, our job doesn't really end. We don't say it's 5 o'clock, I'm done, because sometimes clients call. Sometimes there's, emergency papers that need to be filed with the court. And when things like that happen, that has to come first because people are relying on you. But you also have to think about the little people at home that are relying on you and that need help with homework and that need their lunch boxes fixed for the next day. Or, there's that upcoming science project that you have to help them with.
And try as we might as men to fill that need for kids, I think it's hard. I think that a kid wants the mom to be there in that role. Don't you think? Or am I saying something that is not what do they call that now? Where you're in the know. Oh my God, my brain is.
You just lost it, hey Rob.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. She knows what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely,
woke. That was the word. Woke.
Woke.
Just woke. Just be quiet.
There's definitely a certain tug that you feel from kids a little bit more to their mommy than to dad, and that's okay. I don't think that women or moms, I don't really think anybody complains about it. It just makes us feel a lot more loved. It's draining though. It's draining. And, my husband and I always talk about, when everybody goes to bed, magically things get done around the house, right? Everybody wakes up in the morning and the house is clean and breakfast is ready and the backpacks are in, the trunk. And it's like this fairy came and did all this stuff while everybody's sleeping.
Who is that magician?
That magician is mom. That magician is mom. And
then to be a litigator on top of that with all the energy and emotional demands of that, not just the time, but everything else that goes into that. How do you do that?
So there's a certain overlap between being a mom and a lawyer. And I think the best way I can describe it is the two different approaches I took early on in my career when I did a trial. And during that trial, I played everything really safe and by the book. I put my hair in a really tight ponytail. I wore, a black, kind of like a masculine suit. I was very reserved, kind of like a man. And, we were taught that you wanted jurors to take you seriously. And they didn't want to look at you as weak because you were a woman. And I did all of that, and it didn't feel very natural. I mean, I had a successful result in that trial, but over the years, I took some courses and I went to seminars, and we learned that generally as women, there's something that we can embrace about our feminine side and about what we feel as moms. And so for that trial, I decided, I'm not going to wear that rigid black suit. I'm going to wear kind of like a floral dress. And I'm not going to have my hair, tight, slick back in a ponytail. I'm going to be me. I'm going to have my loose curls.
Right. Be more yourself.
I'm going to be more me.
That's
comfortable in your own skin.
Right.
Being real.
And I think the relatability factor to the jury was incredible because at the end of the day,
that was a trial with us.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
At the end of the day, at our core, it's who we are. And if we embrace that, there's a certain empathy that we as women feel that you can really relate to your client who's on the stand. We're able to pull that out a little bit more when we allow ourselves the freedom to be who we are, because we're not weaker than men.
No.
We're not less intelligent than men. And it's time to put all those notions to rest, you know?
And that
Be woke.
applies to not just being a lawyer, but to other professions.
Absolutely.
That females
Absolutely.
all, hold. And
it even applies to, conversations that you have with opposing counsel, for example. I found that men kind of like to argue a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit of that machoism coming out.
Saber waving.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I found that when I kind of let that go and I didn't have to fight like a man. I decided, you know what? I could fight like a woman.
what was your approach?
And the way I fought like a woman is by being courteous and gentle, playful if I needed to be. But it got it done because, we're not out there to destroy each other. We're there to make things right.
That's right.
And to make point.
Justice.
Yeah, make our point to get justice.
Have you suffered or been injured by someone else's negligence? When you need a legal team that will stand up for what is right, won't give up the fight and obtain justice, call 818-886-6600. Mandel Trial Lawyers specializes in personal injury cases of all types. Whether it's a car accident, product or premises liability, dog bite, or a catastrophic injury, Mandel Trial Lawyers are there for you when the fight is worth it. Call now for your free consultation. 818-886-6600. Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
So what I want to talk a little bit more about you then, because your perspective is so profound and it kind of moves me just to hear you speak. And, I've known you for all these years. You've been my partner basically for over 10 years, but I've never really heard these kinds of things, this
Revelation?
profound, these revelations and this profound sense that you have. And it's very moving. So how as a human being, do you make sure that you can manage to be yourself, to have that feminine side, to be the tiger girl that I know you to be this great mom that you are? Is there a basic core or routine that you follow, that makes that more possible for you?
The routine I follow is basically at the end of the day when I go to bed, I think, did I make people around me proud?
Okay.
And if at the end of the day I can say yes, and whether that's making a client proud or making my partners proud or making my kids proud, then I've done my job. I've managed my time well. In terms of the practicality of it, of how I manage my time, there's no way around it. I mean, as moms, we got to wake up a little bit earlier than everybody else. We got to go to bed a little bit later than everybody else. I may have to spend my lunch hours running errands, picking up Valentine's Day cards for their kid, for the kids' project. It gets done. We just do it. And
you are an amazing time manager. That is one thing I've often been incredibly impressed by. But the other thing too that I know about you is that you're, and I'm going to use this word, but I mean it in the best way possible, that you're kind of a fitness nut. That in those spare moments, those precious spare moments you have, you work out a lot. Why is that?
But that didn't start out that way.
It didn't.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit of how you evolved into that.
So the way that started was about 4 years ago. I was really overweight and just kind of unhappy with myself. And, I was in this really bad pattern of starting a diet every Monday and failing by Wednesday, or going to the gym on a Monday and giving up by Wednesday.
Boy, I know that routine.
Yeah, a lot of us are there.
It got it was exhausting to just never feel good. And so I started these home workouts that I could just do with a DVD. It just took about 25 minutes. And slowly, very slowly, I started seeing some results. I started feeling better. And then, over the course of 4 years, of course, I lost 123 pounds.
Wow.
It's amazing.
And I look at you now and I can't even picture
Yeah, I can't
you
remember.
being, that much of a bigger person. But,
Yeah.
but obviously,
100 pounds lighter. Wow.
wow, that is something else. What
Well,
an accomplishment.
I think the thing that I take away from that most is now it's a lifestyle for me. I mean, you all know that if I need to leave the office to get to my,
Gym.
spin class or my, training, that I got to go, because that is just as much a priority for me as my job. And, I've seen this quote that says, treat your workouts like a meeting, and bosses don't cancel on meetings. So I don't give myself the option of not getting to that workout, because I know how amazing I feel when I'm done with that 1 hour of workout.
And how does that factor into lawyering? Do you think there's a component of that fitness routine and that health routine that you've adopted that factors into
Being a better lawyer?
Yeah, being a better lawyer.
So there's
Thank
two,
you, Larry, for putting words in my mouth. I love it.
So there's two ways I think it factors in. One is this incredible stress relief that you get from getting that heart rate going, and that sweat flowing and those muscles burning. It's an incredible, incredible way to let off steam. And as lawyers, we take on our clients' emotions. That's
That
just
is
the way
true.
it is.
It's just on our shoulders, isn't
It is
it?
on our shoulders.
We're like you remember the sin eaters of ancient times?
No.
Oh, you don't know that? Okay.
No. Who does?
I'll explain that another moment. But it's
Yes.
kind of like what we do in a way, because there I'll just interrupt you for a second here. But in ancient times there was these people called sin eaters, and they would have a feast after someone died.
Sinned?
Yeah, after they died, and it was figuratively, but people believed it was literally eating their sins so that they could get into heaven.
All right.
Okay.
So what's your sin eater?
Yeah. So I mean, but it's kind of like they're taking on all the things of that other person, all
Okay.
the bad,
The burdens.
the burdens
Yeah.
of that other person, and it's kind of what we do in a way.
Yeah, the burden that we carry for our clients is pretty heavy, because our clients are hurt. And when I talk to my client, I generally take that on. And whether it's a physical pain or the stress of litigation, I literally feel that for them.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I needed to find a way to disconnect from that, even if it's just for an hour, and to not worry about anything. And when I mean I don't worry about anything, I mean I'm not thinking about work, I'm not thinking about kids, I'm not thinking about what's going to be made for dinner that night. That 1 hour is solely for me and for my well-being.
Right.
And
we all should do that.
Yeah,
shouldn't
that's
we?
a good mantra for everybody in different ways. I mean, you could focus on yoga or
well, whatever.
What do you
Whatever
do? What is that
exercise.
hour for you generally?
On Saturday mornings, I teach a spin class, and that's something that I started off doing as when I got into the whole fitness world. I used to take spin classes, and it's very enjoyable for me because it's a full hour of, pumping music, and you feel like you're in a club, and, you're moving around, and it feels great. And I thought, I really, really like this. I want other people to feel as amazing as I feel when I did it. So I started teaching classes. During the week, I do everything. I do something different every day. One day I lift really heavy. One day I do a hot sculpt yoga class.
Okay.
Twice a week I train with a personal trainer. So I believe in variety, because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, one, your body's not going to change, and two, you're going to get bored.
Right. You
What do
need to
suggest-
cross train.
What do you suggest for like an old guy like Rob?
Or an older guy like Larry.
Well, you guys can come to yoga with me.
There you go, yoga.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
just walking,
I could
hiking.
do that spin class, no problem.
What about hiking and things like that?
Well, all that, right? Do
Yeah.
you go on hikes?
I don't. I generally don't like to take it slow during my workouts. And
Yeah.
that's probably one thing that I need to work on. I need to find a way to slow down a little bit.
But if you only have that hour, you want to make the most of it,
I
right?
want to do what I really enjoy, and For me, that's enjoyable. Some people can get into yoga and, they could really feel that zen. And that's not me. My zen and my energy comes from, a good 4-mile run.
Right.
Well, cardiologists say you have to get your heart beat up, as part of a healthy heart routine.
Yeah.
Is get your heart rate up.
And how do you know this?
Because I've seen a cardiologist. What do you think?
Oh, did he tell you that?
Yeah, he sure
Oh,
did.
okay. All right. I thought he told you, just to lay off all that salt or whatever,
Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, brothersonlaw.com.
So when it comes to all this fitness stuff, though, I wanted to talk about something else that I think is really important for us as lawyers.
Let's hear it.
And, one of the things that I reflect on the most is 4 years ago, when I would be in a courtroom, let's say, because I didn't like the way I looked and I didn't like the way I felt, I found myself a lot more reserved and a lot more quiet.
Less confident?
Less confident, afraid to draw attention to myself. And I remember this one specific instance where I was in trial and defense counsel asked a question that I thought clearly was objectionable, but I didn't want to object because I was so afraid of those 12 jurors looking at me when I objected.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't want that attention on myself. I didn't like the way I looked. And fast forward now, I feel like when I walk into that courtroom,
You own
I
it.
freaking own it.
There
Yeah.
you go.
That is my courtroom.
Right.
I'm walking in, I'm in charge of my client's case, and everybody can look at me. And I'm never afraid to object. I'm never afraid to speak up. And I gotta say, that's all from finding strength and confidence through fitness.
Yeah. I think I can relate to so much of what you just said, because if you don't feel good and you're off, how do you hold someone else's situation in your hand? You got to be on the top of your game in order to do that, and sometimes it's hard. It can be pretty. It can wear you down quite a bit.
It's daunting, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that applies to a lot of. I'm just going to talk to our audience for a moment. It applies to a lot of different situations. You have to feel that confidence. You have to feel good about yourself before you can do something good for somebody else, in a general sense.
Well, that is all true. So, Aslin, tell us, and I think we've probably talked about this before, just with each other, but maybe our listeners might be interested. Do you have a particular case that sticks out in your mind that is,
Game changer?
Yeah, game changer.
Putting words
for
in your
you.
mouth again.
Right,
Sorry,
or
Rob.
something that, you're the most proud of.
I've had a couple that come to mind, but I think one that my heart and soul is really in right now is probably a case that most other attorneys would turn away. And it's a medical malpractice case. And, the reason that most attorneys would probably turn it away is because we have this thing in California called MICRA, which we absolutely need to get rid of. That puts a cap.
Limits on everything.
$250,000
Yeah.
for pain and suffering.
Yeah. And, medical malpractice cases are expensive. They're very expert driven. So most attorneys shy away from that. But I met this client who walked into my office with the most amazing energy I've ever seen on anybody, with the most incredible and beautiful smile. And then she told me what happened and what this doctor did to her. And I felt like that is just unacceptable.
Can you just give us are we allowed to get into the detail just a little bit? So the doctor did what to her?
It was a plastic surgery case.
Which are tough unto themselves, all by themselves.
Well,
Those
because
are tough.
people sign paperwork.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues like
sometimes there's a lack of sympathy or empathy for that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
But,
And, most people might look at this as kind of like, oh, it's just a cosmetic surgery. You kind of take the risk that things aren't going to turn out perfect or, exactly right. But when I saw exactly what happened and when I saw not just the photos, but, currently what my client looks like after that plastic surgery, I felt a deep pit in my stomach because I feel like we trust doctors, and we go to them with our most valuable asset, which is our health. Right.
In our most vulnerable state.
Exactly. And the energy from this client and how she spoke about this doctor, to me, showed humanity at its core.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't just, I want to sue him and, make him suffer. It was really like, this is just so wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
And I will, clients like that, you want to fight for.
You want to champion.
To the very, very end, no matter what.
You want to champion for them.
Right. So, Aslin, we're going to move on to a little segment here that we called...
Tip of the day.
Go
Tip
ahead.
of the day.
What's our tip of the day, Larry?
Rob, tip of the day is don't text and drive.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Well, but you'd be surprised how many people are driving and they're texting. I mean, you just stop. All you have to do is go on the road and look at somebody next to you and in their car, and they're looking down and it's obvious they're texting.
That's crazy, because I've heard that texting while driving is basically the same as drunk driving.
Yeah.
And that is super dangerous.
Everybody thinks that it won't affect them, that they can take that split second or 2 seconds to look down and text, but it's not going to happen, because in a split second, they could be crashing into somebody, hitting a pedestrian.
Yeah, so no texting while driving. None of yous. Hey, okay, on to our Did You Know segment. So with the current Me Too awareness, this is a new law for 2019 that we found interesting. It was passed last year, introduced by Senator Connie Leyva from Chino, and it bans non-disclosure agreements in sexual harassment, assault, and discrimination cases that were signed on or after January 1st, 2019. So it has hopefully more of a chilling effect on sexual harassment and assault, because even if you settle that case, you can't keep it a secret. You're going to be out there and people are going to know that you were a bad actor in that regard. What do you think of that, Aslin?
I mean, that's definitely a step in the right direction, and the biggest advance that I think I've seen is that women are not as afraid to come forward with things that are just happening all the time.
Right.
And we've been quiet and ashamed and, embarrassed, and it's not like that anymore.
It's the tone of the nation.
Well, hopefully it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's all a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
That's right. Well,
I hear we have a message.
Message box.
Now it's time to check the Mandel message box.
Okay, we have a message here from Sarah from Fullerton who wrote in, and she states this follows. She says, while getting a mani or pedi, like a manicure pedicure, last week the manicurist cut my finger. The cut got infected, and now I'm being treated by my primary care doctor for the infection. What legal recourse, if any, can I take against the salon? What do you think about that, Rob?
Well, I think I want Aslin to comment on that. That's what I think.
Yeah, okay.
So
Aslin.
they cut the finger. She's got the infection now. Does she have a case?
Well, I mean, I would definitely do a little bit of investigation into that. One, you kind of have to look at, is this a reputable salon? Do they have the right licensing? And if you get past that step, then you kind of have to, maybe put on your private investigator hat and go to that salon as a potential customer and see, are they changing the water after every pedicure?
Are they using proper sterile procedures, right?
Yeah.
And we've had cases like that where it's been the hair product.
Oh, we have had hair product
Right,
cases.
tell them about that case real quick.
Yeah, we had a hair case, which, originally we kind of looked at this and we're like, probably not the best case. But then it ended up that, they left the product on this lady's hair too long and her hair ended up completely falling out.
Right. Well, look, we've had a lot of fun with you.
Thank
you.
You're
Thank you.
always a joy to be
Yes.
around, and it's been just great. But it's time to wrap things up. So we thank you all for tuning in. Catch us next week right here on Go Country 105. And just remember, let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
Brothers on law.
The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.